Hello, my friends, Operator Starsky here. As always, it's a huge pleasure to see you guys. Just a couple updates. First of all, we have some nasty news. Son of Chief Rabbi of Ukraine, unfortunately, died on the front line. Chief Rabbi reported that tomorrow in the Central Synagogue of Kiev there will be a farewell to his son Anton Samborsky. I don't know really what to say here, besides we will be saying farewell to a true hero who gave his life for Ukraine, for his country, and not only for his country. Another thing today is 11th of September. Again, it's a horrible tragedy that happened in 2001 in the United States. We all remember the innocent people who died due to this attack, and we should all remember that terrorism is something that we should fight, and we should never just surrender to the terrorists who want to kill us. It's very important to remember. We should always stand as one and fight terrorism. And we also have a small update from Kursk Oblast. So the guys report that Russians actually managed to gather a big amount of troops. They concentrated approximately 100,000 personnel, and in some areas we have a very, very thick OPSEC there, but we know that in some areas they have tactical success. In other areas they keep sucking balls, and we have information that Russians have an order to clear the Kursk area until October. We have information that they switched from using massive gliding bomb attacks in Kursk to attacks using mechanized units and big amount of vehicles. So we will keep our eye on it. Apparently in some areas they managed to transfer some of their troops to the other side of the river and concentrate the assault group in that area. Tomorrow we will try to learn a bit more details on that. But today we will talk about the debates and specifically about the part of debates dedicated to Ukraine. Guys, small disclaimer here. I don't want to tell you which candidate to vote. This is completely your right as a free citizen. This is completely your right as an American. I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, I am not even an American. I'm Ukrainian, and because there was this specific question in the debates about Ukraine, of course I have to answer it. You know me, I attempt to stay away as far as possible from the American politics, but again, when American politics speak about Ukraine, I have to respond as a Ukrainian. And today we will talk about just that. I prepared this small piece of the debates for you guys, and without further ado, let's check it out and breaking down while watching.
Presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that?
Solve the war in 24 hours. Guys, like, seriously, I don't know how to comment this. Solve the war in 24 hours. Oh my God.
Ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives.
Guys, let's note this. This man, Donald Trump, doesn't want Ukraine to win. Okay? Because it was a simple question. It's only yes or no. So basically, it wasn't yes. Okay? Let's just note it. Okay?
Being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much.
People being killed by the millions. Let's remember this number.
Worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more.
Fake numbers, guys. This is so cool. Like, you know, oh my God, all the numbers provided to you by intelligence agencies, like whatever, they're fake. We know true numbers from Twitter. I love it.
Because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that defense alliances like NATO, they unite different countries with different income, but the main thing is security, and you are becoming a member of defense alliance because you want to ensure and enforce the collective security. When Trump talks about money, it's a populism. It's a bullshit. Like, seriously. Some of his supporters call to quit NATO because other members don't invest enough. This is such an insane thing. If the US quits NATO, I don't envy the US, okay? Because not a single country in the world, unfortunately, including the US, cannot withstand the Russian aggression because Russia, well, of course, the US have chance, considering the amount of aviation and the fleet, but guys, it's a wrong way to think, you know, about defense alliances. It's nothing like that.
Either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But
oh, you know, I believe that he would rather have alliance with Russia because he endorses Putin so much. He likes, you know, like strong people, strong leaders. And by the way, a lot of his followers, they share the same opinion. Strong dictatorship is what we need. This is absolutely destructible rhetoric and destructive rhetoric. Guys, you know, I watched Trump's, and again, it's not related to the topic because we're talking about the Ukraine discussed in these debates, and we're talking about why Trump doesn't want Ukraine to win, why Trump doesn't want Ukraine to be victorious. But in 2016, I watched Trump's primaries. He looked much more convincing. Okay, he looked much more smarter. He looked like a guy from a neighborhood who knows numbers, who can talk about numbers. This rhetoric is absolutely irrational and illogical. And again, he was asked a question about Ukraine. He wasn't asked about NATO. What the hell are you talking about here? This is probably the worst debates for Trump. as far as I remember. That's just my opinion as a communication specialist.
You take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150.
270 billion. Where the hell did he find this number? Oh my God. It's like, 270 billion paid by the US. It's the same shit as, that mysterious agreement made by the Western countries and the USSR about NATO not expanding even an inch eastwards. They don't exist. Nobody can provide you with like a link to an actual proof.
They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect.
This is very interesting, guys. Let's hear this part again, okay?
Should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect.
I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well, and they respect me. After what he said about Zelensky, being like a very, very lucky guy, very lucky merchant, going to the US, packing his pockets full of money, 60 billions here, 60 billions there, and going back. I don't really think that Zelensky will keep respecting him, for extended period of time after that, because this is a rhetoric on a level of some freaking drug dealer, not a president and not a politician. You don't talk like that to people. Being a politician means being a good diplomat and solving things politically through diplomatic way. You don't talk like that to other politicians, especially presidents of other countries. No. You can talk to like that to terrorists, of course, to criminals, but it's bad. Another thing, I know Putin very well. He respects me. If I was Donald Trump, I would avoid saying that. Because Putin is internationally wanted war criminal. He's wanted for abducting Ukrainian kids, forcefully deporting them to the Russian territory, and other war crimes that are currently being investigated by the International Crime Court. Don't brag about being a good friend with Putin, okay? It's like, again, today is 11th of September. Yeah? The terrorist attack happened. The American nation is absolutely shocked. And then there's this guy who says, guys, I want to avoid killing, okay? I want Americans to stop dying. I know Osama bin Laden very well. He respects me. So I want this war to be settled. This is exactly the same shit. The Russian dictator is a terrorist. It's like it was recognized so in 2022 by the Parliamentary Assembly of the European Union. It was recognized, the Russian Federation was recognized as terrorist regime by the NATO Assembly, and Putin is a terrorist. Russia is the most sanctioned country in the world. Russia is a terrorist regime, recognized terrorist regime. Putin is a war criminal. Don't brag about being in good relations with Putin, but we will talk about it a bit later, why exactly he says so.
Biden, how would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a...
Biden didn't call Putin in 2 years. it's really interesting, the fact that Donald Trump mentioned this, that nobody even tried to call Putin and talk to Putin because, we need to solve the situation. Does it mean that Donald Trump called Putin? How do you think? I don't have confirmation, but it raises logical question. Did Donald Trump call Putin after his invasion of Ukraine? That is something very, very interesting. Let's keep watching.
War that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after...
Guys, I will just talk. I will just talk to one, to the other, and I will settle everything. It's so easy. It's crazy to think why nobody has even thought about it, to talk to the both guys and settle the war. It's just the easiest thing you can imagine. Literally. 931 days of war already. And the whole international community couldn't come up with the idea that it's just very easy. You just talk. You just talk to the Russian terrorists. You just talk to the Ukrainians who are being killed, but they want to live, right? And you just settle, you just convince terrorists not to kill Ukrainians, and you just convince Ukrainians to finally die, and stop bothering me. It's easy. Come on.
I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because
this is something that I'm still trying to comprehend. He saw Putin building up forces, and he decided, he thought oh, that's a good, strong point of communication, negotiations, having your forces built up on the other side of the border. Apparently they prepare to negotiate. What kind of conclusion is that? I mean, so Putin builds up forces on the border with Ukraine, and your reaction, okay, as a person who was a president of leading economy of the world, your conclusion, apparently he wants to negotiate. I don't think you negotiate like that. When you negotiate, usually you take your guys, your troops, and you take them away, right? You don't bring them to the border. It's a completely opposite to negotiating. It's called invasion. Jesus Christ. Another remark. He says, I will solve this problem really easy, even before I officially become a president, even before I open the door to my office, everything will be solved. He knows absolutely nothing about war, about military. I just, when I see people like Donald Trump talking about war, that is the reason why I remind myself not to talk about, I don't know, ballet, right? Or sorts of vodka, because this is something that I absolutely don't understand, right? My God. Solve conflict in 24 hours. That is the craziest shit I've heard in my life. Seriously.
Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president?
World War III unfortunately already started with Russia waging informational warfare in the United States. Because the war that is waged in the United States is waged by Russian PSYOPs. It involves Russian PSYOPs, and Russian PSYOPs are military personnel who develop military operations, military psychological operations, and execute them on the territory of the United States. And it was like that for quite a long time. So, unfortunately, this war is ongoing, and this war will continue regardless if you are a friend of Putin or not. The only language that Putin understands, because what Trump is trying to convince you, is that he knows Putin well. He will just talk to him and everything will be fine, everything will be solved. So I tell you this, the reason Putin became like Russian dictator, the ruler of Russia, is because Putin was a KGB spy, because he has a lot of connections, and because this elite that is now ruling Russia and serving Putin is basically mafia. So late 80s and until late 90s in Russia, there were gang wars on the territory of the post-Soviet space. There were gang wars in Ukraine, in Georgia, in Ukraine specifically in Donbass area, because a lot of mafia also lived in Donbass. In Georgia, in Russia especially. And the mafia that was worse, like the gangsters that were worse than all other gangsters, they survived for a very simple reason. They killed everybody else. And people like Putin, they literally were like assassinating people, blowing people up, destroying houses. I don't even want to mention this. They were killing their rivals. And this is how they became like, you know, the top, the elite. The only language Putin understands, and this is something that we cannot implement in real life, being not Russians and being civilized, right? The only language Putin understands is language of violence, language of gang wars, language of people being buried in the concrete or thrown into a river with a brick on their necks. This is something Putin understands. Putin understands when mafia starts killing other mafioso, when assassins kill like wives and kids and stuff. This is the language Putin understands, and this is exactly what he does right now on the territory of Ukraine. Trump doesn't know how to speak to Putin. Trump doesn't even understand how to save his own ass right now from Putin, for the reasons we will talk about a bit later.
We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Actually, that is a perfect answer, considering this is Trump. That is a perfect answer. America's best interest is to stop the war. And how exactly it stops, like, nobody cares, you know, people must stop being killed and yada yada. He doesn't say anything about Ukraine being victorious. He doesn't say anything about Ukraine winning this war. Why it's so important for Ukraine to win this war? For a very simple reason. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia violated the international law, which is crucial, which is one of the most important laws in the world right now. Because if you want to keep your country peaceful, if you want to keep our planet peaceful, you have to obey the law, right? And there's a law of territorial integrity, of recognized international borders, and yada yada. That is exactly why the United Nations created this law, the international recognized borders, for a simple reason. So facts like Russia would never attempt to divide other countries, saying, oh, you see, there is a lot of Russian-speaking people who are apparently Russians. Yeah, so we will just take this chunk of the land. No, that was made specifically so people who consider themselves Russians would pack their things and go live in their motherland. And people who consider themselves Ukrainians in Russia pack their things and take their families and move to Ukraine. As easy as that. It's really easy. So that was like a simple solution. And Russia violated this law. That is something we must understand. That is something we all must remember. Russia invaded Ukraine, violating numerous laws and numerous agreements that were, by the way, signed by Putin. 2003, he signed agreement with Ukrainian President Kuchma recognizing Ukrainian borders. Ukraine recognized Russian borders. And Russia, by the way, recognized Crimea being part of Ukraine. 2003. There were no questions regarding Putin being Russian or Ukrainian. No, everything was clear. And Putin himself, with his own hand, signed this agreement, this memorandum, and he violated this memorandum 11 years later. That is why it's crucial for Ukraine to win, because we want the legislation, we want the law to be protected, to be defended. We don't want any cases for the terrorists, we don't want terrorists to succeed. We don't want them to go unpunished. Ukraine wants peace, and Ukraine wants justice. Justice for Ukraine, justice for Russia, for the crimes that Russia committed. Trump was asked 2 times, does he want Ukraine to win? And 2 times, Trump didn't say yes.
A deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
From all those attacks towards President Biden, I understand that Trump considers Biden worse enemy than Putin. It's something so ridiculous. It's ridiculous, guys.
The reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And guys, this is what I'm talking about. She says that Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia violated the law of sovereignty and integrity. There are people who don't understand the importance of this, unfortunately. And unfortunately, those people can vote. But is their right?
Met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be...
I agree, because United States provided javelins, because United States provided all the anti-tank weaponry that we had in Ukraine in 2022 before the Russian invasion, and all the weaponry that we received after Russian invasion. Ukraine keeps fighting. Ukraine keeps defending itself. Ukraine survives. Ukrainian people survive because of the weapons that American people, right, sent to Ukrainian people can live. Because of the weapons that were sent to Ukraine so it could defend itself, protect itself against the Second World Army, there are people who will wake up tomorrow and they will see tomorrow. There are kids who can live, who can go to school and study, and despite air alerts and missile strikes, they can survive because there are soldiers who defend them. Putin, just to remind you, kidnaps Ukrainian children. He deports Ukrainian children from Ukraine to the territory of Russia for different reasons. But this is what he does, and this is a war crime. And Ukrainian children that are now on the Ukraine-controlled territory, they can be safe, like to some extent, but safe, because of the weapons that were received from America and from other European countries, but generally we're talking about America. Due to those weapons that were received from America, Ukraine can withstand the Russian invasion. That is something we should all understand. And when Donald Trump talks about we should stop, killing people on both sides, he literally, to me as a Ukrainian, it literally sounds as if he wants to defend Russians. He wants to protect Russian soldiers from being killed. That is just my personal opinion.
In Kyiv right now, and understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. She's absolutely right. This is exactly what we see when Putin talks about reuniting Soviet territories, when he cries about the collapse of the USSR because he wants it back. And there's a question from Storm. What's Putin have on the orange poop sign, golden showers? Well, we will talk about it as well. Everything is much easier.
With Poland, and why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men.
And you just heard him saying that Putin would be sitting in Moscow and he would not have lost 300,000 men. In the beginning of this show, of this answering this question, he said that millions and millions of people were killed. But Russia only lost 300,000 men. So apparently, Donald Trump, digging information on Twitter, the most reliable information source in the world, don't trust, intelligence agencies, they suck. Trump believes that Russia lost, just a tiny bit of army because Russian army is fucking mighty. President Putin is a strong leader. He's like a true dictator. He's like a dude with the balls. His army is mighty. They only lost 300,000 men, while Ukrainians lost millions. And of course, we have to save Ukrainians by telling them to surrender. That is, again, what I personally hear when he speaks about Ukraine.
And women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nope.
2016, he was much more convincing, seriously. He would talk about things that were like really important for people, for Democrats, for Republicans. They were important. And what happened to Trump today is that he can only talk about, again, it's off topic because we're talking about Ukraine, but you see here he says like nuclear weapons, you know, don't touch Putin, nuclear weapons, he will bomb the shit out of you. He turned into this, you know, like a scarecrow. Again, in my personal opinion, that's just my personal opinion of Donald Trump. He turned into a scarecrow who like spooks, like there's aliens eating cats. There's Haitian aliens eating cats. There is states where you can kill babies right after they're being born. There are states where you can make an abortion being 9 months pregnant, etc., etc. Considering that Paul Manafort cooperates with this man, I'm not really surprised. I'm not surprised because Paul Manafort also worked for Viktor Yanukovych, Ukrainian dictator who fled to Russia. Same stuff. We've heard from him like absolutely the same stuff. Didn't help. Trust me. Trust my Ukrainian experience. Paul Manafort didn't help.
Likes to talk about it, but just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went.
They sent her to negotiate peace before the war had started. How in the world do you negotiate peace before the war had started? Oh my God, my brain hurts so bad. This is a torture, guys. It's a freaking torture.
And he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin.
Which is a lie. She wasn't sent there to negotiate with Putin, which, by the way, the host mentioned here. And he asked her the same question, were you sent there to talk to Putin? Were you meeting Putin? And she said, no. My God. Everything according to Goebbels. Everything. The more you lie, the more people trust you. The more horrible lie you say, you say to your electorate, the bigger the lie, the more people will listen to it.
And she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden, in my opinion.
So, in the world of fantasy, okay, let's talk about the world of fantasy. In this specific case, the world of fantasy of Donald Trump. The war could be avoided because Putin was like sitting in Kremlin, like smoking, and all of a sudden he decided, why not invade Ukraine? Let's do it tomorrow. And he called his generals, and generals gathered all the guys on the border in like one night. And then the United States saw that, like, oh my God, we didn't expect it. We had no idea that Russia can invade a foreign country. The problem was that, unfortunately, Kamala Harris was not convincing enough, and Putin didn't listen to her, apparently because they never talked. But everything could be avoided if you just like talk to Putin properly. You call him and you say, "Yo, brother, you know me, I know you. We respect each other. Let's avoid this, right?" And Putin goes, "Of course, товарищ, you are right." And he takes those guys, and overnight he brings them home. In the real life, a ruling force, a ruling power, decides to occupy part of a foreign country, their neighboring country. What they do is they come up with some kind of strategy. They share this strategy with their highest command, with the generals, marshals, whatever, and they give them task. The task is develop a military plan, a strategy, a military strategy of occupying this area. So what the military do? Military utilize their resources, their intelligence, their reconnaissance groups. They also utilize the help of different intelligence like agency operating in this country, right? Because intel is being shared through different establishments, and they come up with the plan. Then they start preparations because they need to stockpile weapons, they need to stockpile uniform, they need to recruit people, they need to train people, they need to improve the coordination between different types of their troops. That is why they have military exercise. That is why it takes fucking time. It's not like Putin decided to capture Ukraine overnight. Because this shit only happens in the in places like Trump's sick imagination. Unfortunately, in the real life, it happens in a different way, right? So when Putin invaded Ukraine, it only happened because he spent fucking years preparing this invasion. This is how it works in the real life. When Putin invaded Crimea, again, it didn't happen overnight because Putin decided, oh my God, Ukrainian Nazi, threatening Russian people in Crimea, we have to help them. No, they started preparing for the annexation of Crimea many, many months before the beginning of the Revolution of Dignity. Guys, you can vote whoever you like, but this man doesn't know absolutely anything about military, about war, and even more than that, he doesn't know shit on how to end them, right?
I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
Well, again, we're hearing a lot of lies because she wasn't sent to negotiate with Putin. But I agree on Trump criticizing President Biden because President Biden didn't provide as much support to Ukraine as was required, right? Ukraine can withstand Russian aggression for some period of time, right? Not indefinitely, but for some period of time. until we are supplied with weapons. But because of Biden's hesitancy, we cannot win this war. And the problem is that we've lost a lot of time. That's why this criticism is like absolutely acceptable. I share this criticism a lot. But at the same time, I'm grateful that the United States provided Ukraine with weaponry that helped us to stop Russian invasion of like Kyiv Oblast, that helped us to remove Russians from Kyiv, Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Sumy, Poltava, Kherson, Kharkiv regions in just several months during the first year. So we should be critical towards like everyone, right? Including myself.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends. And
there is a commentary from Captain Cautious. Russia began invasion of Ukraine 2014, not 2022. Trump did nothing, absolutely. Neither did Obama, absolutely. But Russia started preparation to this invasion in 2013. I believe around spring, summer 2013.
Not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility.
I completely agree on that, because, there is such thing when stronger people help like weaker people, like on the street. There are 2 types of people. When you walk and you see somebody like trying to rob a person, and you know that you are strong enough to help this person, of course you will beat the shit out of the attacker and you will be endorsed. But you can do different thing. You can say, like, this person is weak, like, you're doing well, like, keep going, like, that is exactly the case. And the reason Trump doesn't want Ukraine to win is basically because he supports Putin. That's all. Like, you can call me, I don't know, Democrats puppet or whatever. I sincerely believe, and this is my personal opinion, that Trump supports Putin. That's it.
In terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never...
And here we're talking again about money. We are not talking about collective security. We're not talking about threats, because Donald Trump starts talking about the threat of Russian terrorism only when it comes to fighting it, right? To him, the biggest threat is not autocratic regimes, not totalitarian regimes, not Putin's Russia, not China, not North Korea. The biggest threat to Trump is that the allied countries of NATO will not pay as much money as the United States. That is the biggest problem. The tiny moment, they can be destroyed without your help. And by losing your allies, you're losing the war, because you alone cannot withstand this war. But again, we're talking about a person who doesn't know shit about war, who doesn't know shit about military, who doesn't know absolutely nothing about military planning, who doesn't know absolutely nothing about geopolitics. Good businessman, my respect, but why the hell do you talk about things you don't understand anything about? Why? So, let's talk about this. He was asked 2 times, does he want Ukraine to win the war? Which is, again, crucial for the reasons we already explained. 2 times he didn't say yes. The reason for that, the reason number one, is that if you support international law and you want Ukraine to win, and you say, yes, I support Ukraine, I want it to win, I want justice, right? Then eventually in the future, you will have to keep your word, okay? While talking to individuals like Putin, for example. But why ruin relations with Putin if his forces support your election campaign? Why ruin relations with Putin if his propagandists promote you as a candidate? Why ruin relations with Putin if he supports you as a future president of the United States himself, with all his propagandist resources, with all his bots, with Russia Today, with his intelligence agencies, with internet research agency that belonged to Prigozhin, etc., etc. Why ruin relations? Another thing, if he says that he supports Ukraine, it means that he also supports the idea of Russian invasion being not legitimate, being illegal. It means that he also supports the point that Putin violated the international law and plenty of different agreements. That is why the best thing you can do in such cases, and that is exactly what all kinds of supporters of Russian terrorism do, is to say, I'm a peaceful person, I want people to just stop dying. But generally, he doesn't care about the international law, he doesn't care about Ukraine, he doesn't care about all that. And of course, he doesn't understand absolutely anything about war. I don't know if Trump ever served in the army. Please let me know. That is something I missed. And another thing. Guys, remember I told you that Russians have this habit of blackmailing their agents. If you don't want to cooperate, they will find a way to blackmail you. Not necessarily they can blackmail Donald Trump with golden rain, whatever, I don't know. But everything can be much easier, because if Donald Trump even spoke to Putin on the phone, this can be used against him. If he ever mentioned, if he ever called Russians to help him, which I believe, personally, I believe it happened, because Russian people who manage bot farms, they don't do anything for free. And why create bot farms in the United States if you can order their service in Russia? So, if there was at least a single case of Trump asking Russians to back him up, to support him, for whatever reason, this can always be used against him by Russians. And Russians will say, like, you better support our point and legitimize Russian invasion of Ukraine. Otherwise, your voters will learn a lot of information that you don't want them to learn. That is something that can be. I don't claim that that's exactly what happened, but if it happened, that is exactly what can be, because it fits Russian style so much. Trust me. Don't be fooled, okay? Don't be fooled with delusions that Trump wants Ukraine to win, that Trumps want the justice, that Trumps want Putin to go to the prison in The Hague, that Trump wants Russians to be punished for their crimes. Because to Trump, it's not a crime. Trump doesn't consider Russian invasion of Ukraine a crime. That is, again, you can quote me on this as much as you like. You can call me whoever puppet. I'm like, actually, I'm a puppet of George Soros, but he didn't build the previous check. That's why I can talk about it. But Trump doesn't consider Russian invasion of Ukraine a violation of law. He doesn't even think about the idea of punishing Russians somehow, for what they did. And he doesn't care about Ukraine winning the war because he doesn't care about the law. That is my personal opinion as a Ukrainian. Guys, I don't call you not to vote Trump, because if you consider his agenda regarding like economics, regarding his fantastic ideas of protecting southern border, etc., the biggest threat to the United States southern border. My God. Then of course you can vote Trump. This is your right, and I wanted to talk about it literally because I'm a Ukrainian and I wanted to discuss this standpoint. I want to make this very, very clear. According to statistics, approximately 2/3 of Republicans and 2/3 of Democrats support Ukraine. Approximately 2/3. Bigger, the number is bigger than 50% in both cases. But Trump is not Ukraine supporter, and he will never be. And he apparently, again, according to my personal observation, apparently he's in really good relations with Putin. He endorses Putin because he's a strong leader, dictator, something that America really, really needs. Apparently. I would, if I was Donald Trump, I would never, ever brag that I'm in good relations with internationally wanted criminal. Because this is something you cannot be proud of. It's like, back in the days, businessmen had this thing like when you pay some mafioso to protect your business, you go, I know some men, some tough guys, we're like bros, okay? And this type of speech literally reminds me of like the same shit. Don't brag about it. Don't brag about being a good friend of a guy known for killing hundreds of thousands of people. Another thing that I noticed, again, considering the numbers of losses, he believes that Ukraine already lost like 1 gazillion people, and basically Ukrainian streets are empty, and only Polish mercenaries are fighting there in Kursk. he considers Twitter like the most legit source of the information. What else can I say? Guys, it's a really hard video to watch. Seriously, to me as a Ukrainian, because like I don't even care about all the bullshit he said about the abortions and aliens eating cats. It's mental, but what he said here, and specifically, the very fact that he didn't answer the question clearly, because it's just yes or no. You either support Ukraine being victorious or not. There is nothing in between. You cannot be, partially pregnant, and Ukraine cannot be partially victorious. It's either yes or no. So this told me everything. The most frequent commentary that I receive when I talk about Trump, whenever he says some shit, or his minions who also say some incredible shit, whenever I talk about them or criticize them or debunk them, there's always a bunch of people there in the comments who say, I would suggest you not to talk about American politics. It's like, it so much reminds me of the times of like KGB, right? I would suggest not to talk about politics, товарищ, because your family may get hurt. You don't talk like that to Ukrainians, okay? We are not afraid of this shit. And we know the true value of freedom of speech, guys. That's why such suggestions will always be denied, fortunately or unfortunately for you. But basically only Russian bots are able to write that shit, because human beings don't think this way. When is Ghost Story? So I'm working on my side channel, as you probably know. It is today it is still called Operator Starsky Music, but tomorrow it will already be called Vibes Ukraine. And please let me know if you like this name, Vibes Ukraine, or is it like cringy? I need to know. ChatGPT told me it's legit. In the nearest time, maybe tomorrow, maybe after tomorrow, I will publish this story. So I decided to make a story, a list of scariest Ukrainian monsters from Ukrainian folklore. And actually, guys, I was collecting the data, and it's like when it's 3 a.m. and, something falls down in a different room, that's why I don't really sleep much these days. But I collected some really cool stories for you guys. So Trump never served in the army. He used some problem in his heels not to be sent to Vietnam. Well, what can I say? He can be like incredibly successful businessman. I'm not saying that business is easy, right? You sell more for the bigger price than you buy, and basically you make money, I'm not saying that it's like incredibly easy and everybody can do that. But if you learn, of course, you can be incredibly successful businessman. But guys, this man is talking about things he don't understand. Geopolitics. Peace talks with terrorists, with Putin. Actually, Kamala Harris said, like, clearly, she said, this dude will eat you for lunch. You don't know how to speak with him. Because he doesn't. Because he doesn't realize that it's not as easy as just, talk to my bro Putin, and solve everything. Talk to Zelensky, talk to Putin, convince Putin not to kill, convince Zelensky to die. It's as easy as that. His dad gave him over 400 million overtime. Oh. He had a really lucky family. He was lucky to be born in that family. Anyways. How is the morale? Filled with fighting spirit? Stay strong. I would answer like in the Ukrainian army, you go, Commander, the psychological moral state of the troops is, how to say задовільний? Oh my God. Is on a high level. Every officer is working his ass off, to make sure our brave soldiers will keep fighting. I can only begin to imagine your level of frustration with all the ridiculous bullshit. My friend, I'm not frustrated. This is the informational war, and this is my thing, which I understand and which I can at least try to debunk. I'm frustrated with the fact that there are people who believe bullshit. And unfortunately, to me, seeing people who say such bullshit on a TV for their nation is a disgrace. To me as a Ukrainian, because we were fighting during the Revolution of Dignity to be able to speak as free people, in order not to be bullshitted by everybody, by anybody. But this is the case. This is the case of extremely toxic person, individual, who doesn't even care if his lies are convincing or not. He doesn't even freaking care. That is one thing. And another thing, as a Ukrainian, I don't consider him a Ukrainian ally, because he's not. I consider him a person who supports Putin, who doesn't want Russian soldiers to die, who doesn't care about Ukraine, who doesn't care about the international legislation, who doesn't care about justice. But maybe he doesn't criticize Putin because he wants to prepare a trap for him. No, he doesn't. I'm for Ukraine no matter what, and the Democrats should have picked a different candidate other than her. Bottom line, could be. I will not have any arguments regarding this because, again, I am really, really far from the American politics. Guys, I never lived in the United States longer than, I don't know, several weeks. I'm not interested in American politics. On surface, I can understand some things, right? I don't know much about personalities. And when I start to learn about some personalities, like Elon Musk, for example, Oh my God. But you know better than me, okay? I trust you. I trust you, my dear viewers. I know that you're smart people and you understand American politics much better than I do. 100%. But when we talk about Ukraine and when we talk about different politicians talking about Ukraine, this is something that I understand because I know a bit about the informational warfare. I know a bit about the Kremlin's narratives, and this is something that I can discuss as a person who has observations regarding this. Only that. It's not because I consider myself an expert of American politics. No. If anything, I would better ask you because I don't really know much about it. For the same reason, I find it really, really funny when different individuals start telling you, history of Ukraine. Ukraine wanted to join NATO. That's why Russia invaded. Really? Ukrainians betrayed the USSR. I've heard how the military is trying to become more aligned like Western military authority chains. How is that coming along? More aligned like Western military authority chains. If we are talking about the headquarters, for example, headquarters on a battalion, brigade level, we already implemented that back in 2016. When we're talking, I'm saying about the sections of the headquarters, sections of the staff. When we're talking about the ranks, we also implemented that quite a few years ago. The main idea of Western standards, if we're talking about NATO standards, it's not to it's not to make supreme army that can destroy anybody with with mind bullets. The main idea behind NATO standards is to make sure that armies from different countries can cooperate. And in 2016, back in those days, my brigade, for example, already proved that we can cooperate with other armies. We had plenty of international military exercise with other countries. And we accomplished all the tasks that were given successfully. Everything was fine. So in our case, I can say that all the necessary changes to make it possible to cooperate with the multinational armies, multinational contingent, you know what I mean. It was done, it was implemented, it was tested. The new system of controlling the troops, the TLP, was also implemented and also tested in 2019, 2020 at the Svetlodarsk Bulge. Everything worked, so I can say that in this regard, everything was fine. As for the armed forces of Ukraine, some of the changes were implemented earlier than in the National Guard. If we're talking about the sections of the headquarters, responsible for intel, responsible for staff, logistics. Some of them were not as successful in the than in the National Guard. Starsky, I saw some Ukrainian vodka in the supermarket today. Is it good from Odessa? No idea. I cannot advise you on vodka because I'm not a fan. I didn't drink vodka many years. You can try. You can try and tell me if it's good. I think engineers and scientists have a very important role to play in innovating new capabilities, both offensive and defensive. Generally, it's something that always happens because the biggest inventions in the world of science were often used in the military, in producing weapons, in making your weapons more effective than your enemy's weapons. So their role is absolutely crucial. This world is a really messed up and dark place at the moment. I would not say so. The only reason it's messed up and dark is because there are people who want to see your country destroyed, and they invest big money in making your people fight each other. And they also invest big money in making your country fight other countries for no reason. And the problem is not the world. The problem is not the people. Generally, the problem is that there are specific folks like Putin, for example, that have those imperialistic, chauvinistic ambitions, and they know how to make your people fight. They know how to make black people hate white people and vice versa. They know how to make atheists hate Christians or Muslims and vice versa. And this is what they implement every single day, effectively, because they built a whole freaking system, a whole freaking establishment that only works in this direction. The world is not a dark place. There are millions and millions of extremely cool and decent people, and 924 of them are currently presented here in this chat. Division is a tactic for sure. That's the word, division. Division of society. Division of alliances. Putin clearly understands what works. And Putin clearly understands how to divide his enemies, because this is crucial. He knows that when you're alone, you cannot withstand the attack. You cannot even fight effectively against the informational warfare, against Russian PSYOPs. You cannot combat that. You cannot resist. Divide and conquer. Exactly, that's the thing. Russians are atrocious. They are not geniuses. They are cunning. And they know how to fight informational warfare. That's why, my friend, the very reason that you feel demotivated or demoralized right now, saying that world is cold and dark and unfriendly. That is the result of the Russian informational warfare. That is the result. The result is the reason, the idea, the goal is to demoralize you, is to destroy your will to fight. Russians are very, very dedicated to fight. They really, really want to win. They have a lot of ambitions. They want to, commit violence against other people, other nations. They dream about being, dominant. And they are very, very much dedicated to continue fighting and continue waging informational warfare. We have to be even more motivated than them if we want to win. That is why please don't lose your faith. Please don't lose your motivation. You will need it to motivate other people. Remember in the movie Gladiator when Russell brought all the men to make one mass against attack, together we win against them. That is the core principle of the military alliances like NATO. These alliances are created with one simple purpose. There is this big spooky Russia, and there are a lot of different smaller countries that cannot stand against Russia alone. This is why when we unite, we can kick its ass. That is the core principle. We should be united, and united we are strong, and we are much stronger than them. But in order to be victorious, we have to be motivated and dedicated. That is the most important thing right now. Don't lose your motivation and don't stop fighting. Because that's exactly what Russia wants you to do. Isolate, stop caring about other people, think about yourself, as if you don't think about yourself. Come on. We all think about ourselves. And that is the reason why we should stay united as well. Only motivation from American politics is that Europe needs to become a military superpower, never ever depend on Americans. It's like this. We understand that there is like friendly rivalry, okay? There is such rivalry, such competition in Europe as well, among countries. And there's nothing really wrong about it. The problem with the current situation in America is that Russia infiltrated it. A lot of people still don't consider this a big problem. A lot of people don't even believe in this, despite numerous cases, Tenet Media, Team Pool, etc. But Russia managed to infiltrate it, and I can only imagine how much money, how much resources that would cost Russia. It's enormous, but you see Russian efforts in building this tremendous informational warfare machine basically succeeded. And currently in the United States, we see what we see. UK have a friendly rivalry with the frogs. Trump's generals hated him. I heard about such stories. Oh, this one is really cool. Ukraine sided with the Nazis in World War II. Russia was the American ally. My dear Russian user, I'm really, really happy that you mentioned this, because now I'm going to show why you suck. So, let's check out my URL. Here it is. So, Brest 1939. You will be impressed, okay? I swear. So here we have this beautiful photo of Russian soldiers peacefully talking to the German soldiers. Oh my God, how was it even possible? I thought there were Ukrainians who sided with the Germans, but we can see like Russian officers. Where did you get this photo? So this photo was taken from a mutual military parade. Here you can see the commander of the Russian forces in Brest in Poland, and you can see the Nazi forces in Poland as well. It's 1939. It's after Molotov and Ribbentrop. Once again, ethnic Russian Molotov and ethnic German Ribbentrop signed an agreement of alliance between Russian Stalin and Nazi German Hitler about division of Poland and basically rest of Europe. That's why when you say that Ukraine sided with the Nazis in World War II, partially you're right, because Ukraine was occupied by Soviets and Soviets were allies with Adolf Hitler. That's why partially you are right from this standpoint. Here's, for example, this absolutely beautiful moment when Russians salute the Nazi German flag. You want to see this? Oh, check this out. Oh my God! Russian officers, together with German Nazi officers, salute the German flag. How beautiful is that? And you're saying that Ukraine sided with Nazis. My dear, I don't know how to call you, friend. No, I value my friends. My friends are usually good and decent people. The Russians were Hitler's first allies. Russians. That's a bit of history. I love to teach Z-Trolls. Yes, my friend, and this is something they don't really like to talk about, because when you mention Molotov-Ribbentrop, mutual Russian/Nazi-German military parade in Brest in 1939, Russian officers saluting Nazi flags, that is something they really, really, avoid talking about for some unknown reason. Maybe they don't like this part of their history. Well, every country has, some dark moments in their history. Like, it's an obvious thing. But saying that Ukraine allied with Nazis while Stalin allied with Hitler officially, it's a complete bullshit. You should be ashamed of that. Go into 1942, and Ukraine was fighting the Germans off. And Ukrainians actually sacrificed a lot in this war to remove Nazi Germans from their territory. We sacrificed a lot of Ukrainians died during the liberation of Kiev. A lot of them literally drowned because of the Russian command that, again, never valued Ukrainian soldiers and considered them like Untermenschen. Russians were, like, Germans were bad back then in the World War II. Russians were also bad. I don't think that the world is dark and dreary place. Thank you so much. I don't think so as well. If world was dark and cold and depressing, then we would have to create something beautiful, right? But the world is beautiful itself and people surrounding us. This is something we should remember and value. Does operator Starsky accept super chat questions? Rachel, I don't, because I try to answer as many questions as possible. I'm a representative of those people who consider super chat like a cheat. Because all the people in the chat deserve their questions to be answered, and that's what I'm trying to do. East Germans, West Germans, Checkpoint Charlie, 1961. I've been to Checkpoint Charlie. I believe that I even have a picture with it. Generally, when I went to Berlin this year, I didn't expect this place to be, I don't know, I would not call it depressing. And because generally I didn't see whole Berlin. I didn't see like clubs. I didn't see any events. I know that citizens of Berlin are generally really open, really like punk-ish, anarchist, that's the word. But I spent a lot of time, roaming around historical places, and after reading all the information about people who were shot while trying to escape to the western part of Berlin, reading the stories about Holocaust and things like that, I was going back home with a really, really heavy heart, from all the information I learned about it. Isn't this channel beautiful? The people on this channel are extremely beautiful, especially those in the chat. Trump could want Ukraine to win, but he must be the one that saved Ukraine, Europe, and NATO. That was very interesting analytics of Donald Trump. That is just my observation, my friend. That is just literally something that I noticed and I decided to share with you guys because when people start debating whether Russia controls Trump, whether Trump is Russian asset or not, whether Trump is like a genius who has a genius peace plan for Ukraine and make sure that Ukraine wins, etc., etc. There's a lot of traps when you think about Trump as a savior or maybe Trump as a Russian asset, but at the same time there are things that can be absolutely real, like blackmail, because Russians do it all the time. And of course, Russians supporting Trump would not ruin relations with Kremlin, because Kremlin supports his campaign. Kremlin uses millions and millions of fake people, the bots, to promote Trump. Kremlin invests into American media like Tenet media to promote Trump. And Kremlin also invests into things like Twitter. Again, read that investigation on 8VC, a company that invested in Twitter, and two sons of Russian sanctioned oligarchs work in that company. The worst thing is that this company also works with other companies that do contracts for the Department of Defense. That's why Russian infiltration is tremendous. But at the same time, they support Trump on this election. Is it because they are dedicated Trump's fans out there in Moscow and they sincerely want Trump to win because they consider him a great guy? Or is it because his team paid Russians to promote Trump or promote MAGA in the social media using their incredibly developed infrastructure of creating bots and producing disinformation? What exactly happened? We'll never know. Or maybe we will, but not today. Have you gotten to operate any robo-dogs yet? No, not yet. I used to have friends who worked at RT America. Several of them are mostly just bitter that they lost their jobs in March of 2022. I don't know what to say here. Those who worked in RT and voluntarily spread disinformation, I would never consider them friends. Because the result of their work is the fact that I had to bury a lot of people I considered my friends, and they had families. That is direct result of people working in Russia today and spreading disinformation. Sweden told today that they will send Gripen jets. We were talking about Gripen jets last year, as far as I remember. And those, by the way, are really cool because they they can land on raw airfields, as far as I remember. Sorry, bro, but Trump is a better option for us. I don't think he will abandon Ukraine. Well, unfortunately, I do. And unfortunately, he never said anything about Ukraine winning, because that is the only thing that matters if you want to live in a safe country. Biden removed weapon restrictions for military targets in Russia. Really? Let me check. That is that is cool. Biden. That is good to know. So, it is said in the news that Biden says ending ban on Ukraine's use of long-range weapons being worked out, but it's a news as of yesterday. So it's in the process, but not yet adopted. No domestic animals are being eaten in America. And I can confirm that because law enforcement was asked about it. And basically, oh my God, why am I talking about it if I can show it to you? Trump, that's. This is interesting. Let's check out this one. Shut up. I don't want to subscribe. Where did Donald Trump's pet eating claims come from? I would like to know that too, by the way. The claims were immediately fact-checked by the moderators during the last night's president debate. And by the way, kudos to the moderators. They did really, really well. In my personal opinion, they were truly professional, and I think they deserve our appreciation. Okay, let's check out the news. So we have the presidential hope. What the hell is this Sky News? Come on. J.D. Vance backs Trump's comments. Mr. Trump's running mate J.D. Vance, who had already tweeted about the claims on Monday, defended the Republican presidential candidate's comment after the debate, saying that no one has spread false claims. Apparently, somebody did. Holy God. In Springfield, they are eating the dogs. Oh my God, they're eating dogs in Springfield. That's horrible. That's even more horrible when when the citizens of Cardiff were doing prostitution to survive, according to Russia Today, or warming their food on the radiators, on the heaters, because they have no gas, again, according to Russia Today. It's just insane. Will people supporting Trump, will they get how to call it? Will they get not disappointed, but will they stop supporting Trump after that bullshit? Not really. I believe, he has this huge audience of people. He has like a cult. And those people will keep supporting him no matter what. He said fake about dogs being eaten. Yeah, this will hurt them a bit, hurt their pride, just a bit, because their leader is lying, but they will keep supporting him because, everybody lies. Everybody lies. That's why it's justified for Donald Trump to lie as well. Trump puts immigrants and Ukraine on same level. That is, these things cost us money. I'll stop it, so vote for me. Another interesting claim that he always makes is that, when I was a president, Russia never invaded Ukraine. When I was a president. And if I was a president, Russia would not invade. My God. When I served in police, there was no COVID in 2015. There was no COVID, no corona. But then in 2016, I joined the National Guard and boom, there's corona. But if I continued serving in the police, there would be no pandemic. And, I should have continued serving in the police. At the same time, in 2015, wait a second, when was it? Trump's presidency. In 2015, before Trump, Russia kept using artillery, kept using tanks, kept using terrorist acts, killing people in the Ukraine-controlled territory, kept using snipers, and Ukrainian soldiers kept dying. In 2017, they still kept dying. 2019, 2020, when Trump was still a president, we lost several men in such places as Zaitseva, Travneva, Dolomit, Svitlodarsk Bulge. We lost several men. Apparently, Russian artillery wasn't aware that Trump banned them from shooting Ukrainians. Apparently, they didn't know. They didn't get the message, when Russians were calling them on the radio to say, don't shoot Ukrainians. Trump is president. Trump doesn't allow us to shoot. Apparently, they were like drinking vodka or, I don't know, smoking a broom, or bamboo. And they missed the message, that they were not supposed to kill us in 2020. I will, seriously, guys, I will be highly critical of this man, because at the debates, he made a big mistake. He didn't say, he didn't side with justice. He didn't side with the rest of the world that supports Ukraine and supports international law. He didn't do that. He didn't side openly with Putin either. But it doesn't mean that a person who endorses Putin and considers him a good friend and who apparently calls him as well and person who has like mutual respect with the international war criminal doesn't mean that he doesn't support him, right? He also didn't side with Senate. You know, considering that he was much better like 8 years ago, I think that the older he gets, the worse he becomes. Basic fact is that Ukraine must win against evil aggression. Absolutely, because justice should be preserved. And Russian invasion of Ukraine was not justified. Even from the standpoint of more than 140 countries that condemned Russian invasion. Okay, friends, I think it's a good opportunity to say thank you for watching this stream. Also, I would like to say thanks for supporting Ukraine and supporting my brigade. By the way, my fundraiser for the drones is still running. Big thanks to everybody who donated already. Guys, you are amazing. We keep collecting and we will be providing my brigade with the reconnaissance drones, with Mavics. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet to my side channel, please do that. Very, very soon there will be this absolutely tremendous, terrifying video about the scariest monsters from the Ukrainian folklore, because that is, it's something really, really cool. As always, my dear viewers, thank you so much for staying with me. We are basically like family now. Same faces, same nicknames that I've seen 2 years ago in my streams, in the chat, and you're still here. Thank you so much. I appreciate seeing you guys and answering your questions as much as I can. Guys, we'll see you next time. Please be safe and please never lose faith, never lose motivation. It is something crucial. No matter what kind of news you receive on a daily basis, no matter what kind of demoralizing information you read in the messages, in the monitoring channels, guys, don't lose faith. We should stay strong and united and motivated if we want to win. Otherwise, if we don't believe in our victory, what's the point of even fighting, right? We should stick together. My friends, I love you. You are amazing. And we will see you next time. Be safe.